Now, to maintaining our mental health, you've heard folks say before somebody says they hear a voice. You might think they're crazy, but it's not a bad thing. They haven't lost it. The truth is we all have that inner voice, and our next guest is going to teach us how to manage it to better our lives.
That inner voice can be a bad thing, though, and I think that's what Dr. Ethan Kross is going to talk to us about, renowned psychologist and the author of Chatter. And thank you for being with us. You talk about the inner chatter, and as I said, it can be actually a bad thing. It can be a destructive thing. How do you define chatter?
So when we experience negative events, we tend to turn our attention inward to problem solve and make sense of them. But oftentimes that backfires, and we end up ruminating, worrying, and catastrophizing, which is what I call chatter. It refers to that negative cycle of thinking and feeling that turns our ability to problem solve into a curse rather than a blessing. And it can exert a really negative toll in our lives. It can make it hard to focus at work, create friction in our relationships, and powerfully undermine our physical health.
How are we supposed to tame that thing, Doc?
Well, the good news is that there are lots of science-based tools that exist, and I talk about 20-something of them in the book. One thing that we know is that it's much easier for us to advise other people than it is to take that advice ourselves. And so one of the things we've learned is that trying to coach yourself through a problem and through your chatter, like you're giving advice to another person, can be very useful. And you can actually use language to do this. So next time, TJ, you're experiencing chatter, silently coach yourself through the problem using your name. All right, TJ, what are you going to do about this? That linguistic shift can be a useful tool for managing chatter.
Dr. Ashton is over here throwing things at me because we've talked about that very thing here on this show, and she was telling me, TJ, just talk to TJ. And so maybe that works. So we like that bit of advice, Doc.
Yeah, and you can do that with children as well with something called the Batman effect. So with the way you can package that for kids, the way I do with my daughters is, all right, sweetie, the next time you're really upset about something, pretend you're Wonder Woman. What would Wonder Woman do right now? We find that asking children to coach themselves through a problem like they're a superhero can be a very useful way of managing distress as well.
I like that, Dr. Kross. And then you've also talked about physical touch and how that can actually help us psychologically as well. I'm not a big hugger, but TJ's laughing. I've been told I'm not a big hugger, but it actually can make a big difference. So convince me to hug more.
Well, I'm glad you said you're not a big hugger, Amy, and we'll come back to that in a second. So touch is one of the most primitive tools we have for controlling our chatter. It's the first way that we're soothed out of the womb, right? We're embraced by our caretakers. What we know is that touch can help us through two different pathways. Simply feeling the affectionate embrace of another person releases a cascade of feel-good chemicals, endorphins, oxytocin, which can help us feel better. But it also consciously reminds us that there are people here who love us and who support us, and that can be useful too. Now, the big caveat is what you implied at the beginning, Amy, which is if touch only works if it's mutual and it's desired. So I wouldn't endorse people to go around hugging everyone and soliciting hugs. You really have to find the right match. So family sometimes and so forth.
Yeah. Thank you for that caveat, Doc. And again, Doc, we were laughing nowadays. We were laughing because seriously, and a good friend of ours here, Nikki, actually says that if you need a hug, don't call Robach. Because she's just not that person. And she owns that.
I do.
She owns that, but I'm glad you explained it the way you did.
Well, TJ, I want to jump in there. There are no magic pills. So in Chatter, I talk about these different tools. Different tools work for different people in different situations. And the challenge, and this is both from the science side and the application side, is to figure out the blends of tools that work best for you, given your unique experience in the world. And so, hugs work for me. They may work for you, TJ, too. But Amy, don't feel bad if you're not a hugger.
Thank you.
Lots of other things you can do.
I love it. We can show your love in lots of different ways, right?
Pick one. Pick one, Robot.
That's right.
Pick one.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ethan Kross. Chatter is now available everywhere books are sold.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.